All right, so we've got a great panel here, a variety of folks working in the industry. Just to be clear, originally our title for this was meant to be a joke, but as we were discussing pre-conference what we were going to talk about, we realized there's a lot of things that brands are not doing well, so we wanted to highlight some of that, but then turn it around and speak about the positives that are going on. So we'll cover the wide range here. We've all been in the space for some time. I'll give you a quick intro on myself. I'll be moderating the panel and driving the discussion, and then we'll go to intros of the rest of our panelists as well. So I work at PwC, not a brand well known in the Web3 space, but known in the trust space. One of those things that's very important, right now, given all the events that have occurred over the past year. So I drive our Web3 digital asset practice in the US and help brands understand what we're talking about here. There's a lot of jargon in Web3 and NFTs that people don't understand. So we help educate them and then help them come up with strategies and operationalize those strategies and go end to end. So first we'll start with Mark. You guys at Blockhouse have a great website where you guys are known as candy connoisseurs, dog lovers, and a bunch of other things. I know you just went through a rebrand of your website. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Web3, and then we'll go to you, Carolyn.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks so much for having us on, by the way. So great to be here. Blockhouse has been around for 2 years, and yeah, we love candy. It's a recurring topic. My favorite candy, by the way, anything with peanut butter, Reese's is the king of all candy. We've been around, again, for 2 years. We are a brand incubator and product lab. We built a lot of products over the last 2 years. Actually, we just launched 2 new products at this show. And yeah, it's been quite busy. We've collaborated with a ton of brands, global brands. You know them, you've heard of these names, Manchester United, Red Bull Racing, McLaren, etc. So we've done a lot of activations, and we learned a few things from doing that. And of course, we do everything from advertising to social media to events, and many other things. So yeah, we've seen the transformation that's taken place over the last 6 months, 12 months in NFTs, and basically how brands can leverage it to their advantage, but also what things not to do when they're trying to enter the space.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to get into that for sure during this panel. And Carolyn, first start with your favorite candy, as that's why I'm sure everyone's in the room. And then tell us a little bit about yourself.
I love Snickers, and really any candy with chocolate. I do love peanut butter too, so we agree on that. I'm head of marketing at Blockhouse, and I have been here for a little over a year now. Prior to that, I spent a very long time at IBM in both marketing and product roles, and was on the team that was launching the enterprise blockchain product that IBM incubated several years ago. And that's what got me down the blockchain and Web3 rabbit hole, eventually led me to Blockhouse. So I've had an interesting journey into the space, seen the evolution from an enterprise side and a brand side, and now at Blockhouse, we're really fortunate. We have such an interesting vantage point where we do work with global brands. We also work with layer 1s, layer 2s, startups building apps and dApps in the space. So we're seeing the gaps in the market, the opportunities. That's what allows us to also not only provide marketing services to these clients that we have, but also incubate products in-house and use the technology, which is a critical part of understanding how it's evolving. So yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome. And Janey, obviously, you spend your time in a slightly different area of the space known as the digital fashion guru, and we're both wearing our 9DCC hats here. So, talk to me a little bit about digital fashion and how you got involved in this exciting space.
Sure, maybe I'll introduce myself first, if that's okay.
That is fair.
My name is Janey, otherwise known as JumpStartJaney. Really, the name just came from jumpstarting into a space with not having all the information and in something that is considered very speculative. I have 15 plus years of my career spent in the beauty and fashion industry, building, launching, and scaling brands in the US and globally. I did the last 10 years in Asia, Hong Kong, China, Macau, South Korea, as well as covering all of APAC, and fell into the Web3 rabbit hole last year on January 1st as a investor, community member, content creator. I do a lot of things like most people in this space, multi-hyphenate. having many different hats, as well as consulting, and my day job is working at The Fabricant, which is a digital fashion house that was started in 2018. They had the first digital couture dress on the blockchain for 54 Ethereum, y'all. And at the time, it was 9.5K. And I know we're in a bear market, possibly leading into recession, but that's still quite a bit of money for something that is digital. So that's me.
Awesome. So obviously we're all working with brands in the space. We've seen that different brands are at different places in their digital journey. Some have just started to hire Web3 NFT people. Some have been in the game for many years now. When they get started, we all help them assess what it takes to get into that journey and how to help them. So Mark, any thoughts on sort of how you help brands assess whether or not they're ready for this new technology?
Yeah, so I mean, things have changed quite a bit for brands entering the category and the space. And the main thing that brands have learned is that they can't just jump into it and treat an NFT drop like an advertising campaign. It's not the same. But it's something that they learn they learn eventually, and hopefully the right way. Because what happens when somebody or at a big brand wants to enter the Web3 space or do NFTs, they have this discussion internally, and then inevitably, the chief revenue officer comes in the room because like, oh, you're going to monetize IP. That's cool. That's kind of my job, right? And then you've got the communications team and the brand team that enter the room, and they're like, oh, well, it pertains to the brand, right? And it pertains to how to communicate the brand. So they're in the room. And then you've got the legal team, 100%, right? The legal team is going to ask you, wait, what exactly are you selling? And what are the implications? All of these things have to be sorted out. And when we start talking to a brand, we want to know that they've thought through these basics. And they're not simple. When I say basics, they're fairly complex. But the nature of the challenge is that an NFT is both a way to engage with the community, but it's also a product. And it's a product that tends to be primarily a monetization, or brands tend to look at it primarily as a monetization of their existing IP, because it's a shortcut to launching NFTs and engaging with end users. But it's not sustainable. And so we try to caution them that if they're entering into it with this mindset of, I'm going to take my IP from, let's say I have a 100-year company and I'm globally known, I'm going to take this IP, I'm going to monetize it, and then I'm going to activate the community. Well, guess what? NFTs are forever. They're like diamonds, okay? And you need to think through it with a perpetuity mindset, because you have to engage with these users, whether you like it or not, and you have to deliver value. And a marketing team is not equipped to handle that kind of commitment. And so what I tried to kind of guide brands through is, how are you creating community interaction points and facilitating interaction between community members so that they can sustain themselves and you don't constantly have to create really expensive and time-consuming content that will engage with them. And that's the single biggest kind of lesson that a brand entering the space needs to learn, is this kind of caution, but also thinking, I need to build community first. And to us, that's obvious, but trust me, it's something that they really need to immerse themselves in, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack in what you were just saying, right? It's not about just delivering value on the initial drop. It's about delivering continuous value throughout the journey of an NFT. And at a dinner I was recently at, actually, Jody was there. The statement was made that launching the NFT is the easy part. It's the after the NFT that's the hard part. And like you said, maintaining that community. Janey, so I know you spend time with in the fashion industry. Is there anything different about the fashion industry that we should be aware of from a readiness perspective?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think there is luxury fashion and there's accessible. I mean, if you don't know already, Nike is making moves in this space. They did the acquisition with Artifact and obviously made a financial case for it. I think I do agree and also disagree, which is like classic MBA answer. But I'll just say that keeping it simple and really just understanding what's the value that is being brought to a customer that is actually now turned into a co-creator and community member. And I think this is really the ethos of Web3, of being able to make the decisions alongside of brands to actually create something. So whether or not that's being able to work with a specific colorway or design, and basically a community and co-creation driven effort where you're part of the process. And I hear a lot of people talking about this, whether or not they're in Web 2 or Web 3, of just saying that, they don't want to be considered just a dollar sign. They have an opinion, they want to be able to co-create, but maybe they're not a designer in this respect. So I would say really the co-creation part is key. And the second part I would say is the utility. So for me personally, having worked with physical garments, when now I tell the CEOs or C-level or just colleagues and friends and teams that I now work with digital clothing, they just don't understand it. And this is the same thing I said in Miami before, which is make it make sense to them. So the headquarters of my company is actually in Amsterdam. So I was passing through customs, and the customs guy asked me, so why are you in Amsterdam? I was like, I'm not here for the coffee houses. I'm here because I sell digital fashion. He was like, what the hell is that? Excuse my language. And so I just told him, I was like, are you on social media? He says, no. It's like, okay, let me pivot and think about it. Do you game? He says, yes. So I said, think about gaming skins, the outfits that you wear. And he's like, okay, I get it. So I think the key for me, whether or not it's fashion or any other brand, is speak the language that your customers or your community actually speak to make it make sense for them, that they would actually want to buy in, believe in you, and actually want to be a part of the value creation process and the journey, and not just a dollar sign.
Yeah, no, I think again, you made some great points there. One is you don't have to go in alone, right? You can partner. The Nike example that you gave, where they found an authentic partner to launch with, is a great thing. And then also the collaboration aspect. Carolyn, when you talk to brands, what do you hope that they've done internally on their own first before coming to you to help you with them along their journey?
Yeah, and building on what Janey and Mark have both said, I think first is having a real look at, so if you think about an NFT as a product, then you have to also think about product market fit. You have to have a real assessment of, am I delivering something that makes sense for my audience? That's very basic, but maybe not a conversation that's always being had at the beginning of an NFT conversation, because they're not in that mindset of this is a product. And I think the first step for a brand is having just a real assessment of whether where we are in the stage of NFTs today in the market, if it's an appropriate approach for the audience that you have today. So, you may have an audience and you may have really loyal customers who want to have a digital artifact of their loyalty to you that lives in perpetuity. And that could be meaningful to some brands and not to others. So some brands may not actually have a large swath of their customer base for whom something like that is actually meaningful. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of movement in the luxury space, because there's already, the buying behaviors of the customer aligns with the current ethos of NFTs. So I think you have to have a real assessment of, am I producing something that is valuable? Is there a community that maybe wants to co-create with me and wants to wear this kind of digital badge of honor that they've bought into my brand in a way that goes above and beyond just purchasing something in the Web 2 space?
Yeah, totally. And I'm glad you brought up product market fit, because I think that's one place where brands can get it wrong, right? They either go one way or the other, and they don't focus on their true customer. We actually just released an article last week on sort of the intimidation of getting into this space for brands, and sort of highlighted a couple different things. I'm wondering what you guys think about it. And Carolyn, we'll start with you this time. What is intimidating to brands, and how do you break through those barriers or help those brands work through those, the different things? Resourcing is obviously an issue.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that is intimidating is the technology, the jargon. There's so many layer ones, layer twos. What is, how do you choose the right technology? Mm-hmm. And that's becoming maybe less and less important as many layer ones and other ecosystems offer a lot of really good and powerful tools for this. Mm-hmm. But I still think there's a little bit of reticence and maybe nervousness about, because there's a lack of understanding. It's still pretty opaque for a lot of people to just understand what's happening in the space. So that's one thing. And then I think the other thing, maybe what you were touching on with the fact that this is a commitment on the part of the brand to do something for and create a community and engage in a longer term way that is above and beyond something like an ad campaign, above and beyond the traditional marketing nurture stream. And it could be intimidating to think of this in a new way, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about enhancing your existing platform, not just pivoting completely and going off in a different path. Janey, same question for you. How do you help brands break through some of the intimidation of NFTs?
I think number one, I know our panel right here is called NFTs. Don't use that word. Yeah. I think that NFTs just have a connotation right now, especially what's going on in the market. There are rug pulls. There's a lot of people with a sentiment in the market of calling it a digital collectible, a digital wearable, or something to that effect, where it actually resonates more and doesn't have a negative feeling or connotation. And another hot take I would say is using the word Web3 in your username or anywhere. I know I even have friends who do this, but I would be very careful because you don't know when it will become Web XYZ01 or God knows what it would actually become. And the second point that I'll make, so the first one was more about the language aspect. The second part is education and onboarding. Again, I'm a huge Nike fan. I rolled into an Adidas party wearing Nike Dunks and a Nike bag. They told my friend with the Adidas jacket that they loved his jacket, said nothing to me. But that is definitely, I didn't dress appropriately for that. But I will say that for Nike, again, I don't work with them. I would love to. This is, I guess, a plug, but what they're doing right now for education and onboarding, they're going to where their customers and community are at. They're going to all the hype sneaker stores across the USA, which I'm assuming they're doing as a product market fit to see if this model works. Training session, you get merch. I mean, yes, it's a pen and you get a notebook, but literally everyone is going crazy to actually get into these sessions, and you have a walkthrough of what .swoosh actually is, equivalent somewhat in .ens, but also being able to co-create your wearables. But I think the model that I would say to take away from that is be the first. If you are a beauty brand, if you are a musician who has a, anime link or whatever it is, think of that pivot point that will connect the dots for your customer and be able to create the journey with them, but actually educate them and make them understand why them being a part of a digital immersive environment, which I don't like using the word metaverse as well either, which we talked about earlier, is making sure that they will learn alongside of you and be the first touch point of their journey. Because, like David Ogilvy, who's a huge advertising agency globally, had written a book called Love Mark. I highly recommend it. But even to that effect, people remember the brands that they fall in love with, not necessarily just the ones that bring them money that you can actually flip on the marketplace.
Yeah, I think just picking up on one thing you said, and then Mark will ask you the same question, is being first, right? I think getting out early in this technology gives you the ability to experiment, right? And I think that's one of the things, I know this because we practice what we preach, is everyone on my team has to experiment in this space. They have to touch this technology, whether it's crypto, it's NFTs, it's metaverse, it's one or the other. They have to touch the technology. They have to be experimenting. They have to be out there playing with it. But being first allows you to potentially fail and rebrand and get out there. So I totally agree with that point. But Mark, same question to you.
So great points have been made already. I would just add that. So I was in Web3 when it was blockchain, and I was in blockchain when it was crypto. Like, we keep coming up with these terms and they keep changing. And actually we're the ones who keep changing them, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point you start to upset the diehard OG community. If you talk to somebody who's like OG and you say Web3, it's a trigger word. They're like, I call it crypto, right? Like, stop calling it Web3 because it ain't Web3. I was there when it was blockchain, I was there when it was crypto. And the same thing applies with NFTs. I'm actually of the belief, first of all, I think it's a terrible name, But I actually think it's going to go back to being in vogue. And I'm happy to be wrong, but NFTs, non-fungible token, what the hell is that, right? What is that combination of words, and why was that name selected? Not great, but it means what it means, and I think people have become accustomed to it, and I think people will eventually embrace it, maybe 6 months, maybe a year down the road, and they'll actually refer to it for what it is. Even though we're seeing a transformation between NFTs, and now that people refer to them as digital collectibles, et cetera, in an attempt to avoid the negative connotations that come with the volatility of the category, right? Yeah. Which is unfortunate, but it's just a reality of what we deal with, because there's some good projects, there's some not so good projects. And what it boils down to is we exist in a very technical category. Technology that is not understood is intimidating, and brands will avoid that. And rightly so, because if they have 100-year-old brands that's global, why would they risk their brands, which they took them so long to curate, with something that they don't fully understand? That's really what it boils down to. So we do have to explain it to them so that they understand how to provide value to their users, real value, and they're not just jumping on the bandwagon and then regretting it very quickly because they got into something that they didn't fully understand. I actually have tremendous respect for brands who have taken the cautious approach, even though from where I sit, I do want to onboard. I would have been happy to help Nike and many other brands actually be onboarded, because first of all, I think we could have helped them genuinely, but I also respect them for taking their time and really doing it right. That is why they're what they are, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think education is important. Terminology can be a hindrance, but we exist in a technical category. So.
Yeah, it's my business school moment here, where I agree and disagree with the discussion around the term NFT. I think we all agree that it can have negative connotations. I totally agree we're in a technical space, and making things simple. I think we all agree making this simpler for people, right? The onboarding experience today, using some of this clunky technology as it is today, the user experience isn't where it needs to be. I don't know if we need to ditch the NFT term yet. NFT, 3 letters, it's nice, it's simple, it's easy. Yes, non-fungible token, a lot more to say. But I think it's about the simplicity of this technology and getting to why we're using the technology that's important. Forget the jargon, right? There's so much jargon out there. But I know we're also running out of time here, so I want to combine the 2 questions that we were going to end with here. How do we make this real for people? Let's talk about some real life examples. I know we've talked about Nike. I know I mentioned the 90cc hats that we're wearing here, which I think Quinn also mentioned before about these scavenger hunts that really make this real for people, incentivize people to do different things. And then where are we going with all this, right? Let's talk about the future and sort of what we're seeing in the space today and how we're making it real for people. So, Janey, I don't think we've started with you. I'll put you on the spot here.
I was hoping I would actually have a little bit more time, but we're all about speaking and thinking on the fly here. As you were speaking, I think, and I was thinking through the questions, I think one thing that popped into mind was know what your value really is, right? If you are a restaurant brand or if you are a retail brand, what's the in-store experience and how can you make it digital and go above and beyond of whatever you actually have done before? There's a ton of examples that I could think through right now, but one thing that I'll say is, I went to the Adidas event yesterday, and it was somewhat of a similar concept of a scavenger hunt, of being able to go to different, it basically forces the customer journey of actually going through each and every single floor. And we used to do that when I used to work in retail stores. You would literally block off certain areas, so they were forced to actually go through the whole store in hopes that they would actually see something else and they would actually buy it. And I think that's something to consider, is what's the core of your business, how to make it digital, how to make it engaging, and how to go above and beyond what they've experienced before. And last thing I'll say for a future trend, digital fashion, digital clothing. My hot take that I make on TikTok with all the Gen Zers, I'm the crazy elder millennial that's talking about Web3, NFTs, and digital fashion, is that you're already in it. If you're using a filter on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it may be, even Snap, That's a digital fashion and a beauty filter. And go do some research on it. I mean, there was a filter called Bold Glamour. It blew up completely. And there's machine learning and there's technology being used. But imagine a day where you don't have to wear any makeup or even, I'm not saying you should be naked, but like wear regular clothing where you could literally attach, a Chanel body suit or jacket or something like that, as well as Huda Beauty makeup.
I just need to know, did you wear your Nikes or did you stop at the Adidas on the scavenger hunt yesterday and wear your Adidas to the show?
No, I keep it real. I have to say I'm a huge Nike sneakerhead. I don't have any Adidas shoes, but if you want to work together, it's a different story.
Yeah. I'm being told we're ending here, but Mark, give us where we can find you guys.
You can check us out at blockhaus.io. That's BLOKHAUS.io. And give us a call. We'd love to collaborate.
And Janey, where can we find you?
I'm JumpStartJaney across every single social media platform, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Let's talk in the DMs.
And if you look at, if you go into Google and you type in PwC and digital assets, you will find us very quickly.
Or pwc.eth.
PwC.eth might be a thing.
Well, let's give our panel a hand. Thank you so much for being here.